Hello friends, May Flom here for Dress It Up Buttons. The live show is happening. I am just going to make sure everything is working here on my end. Having a few technical glitches with our computer, so instead of me starting with my face, hello, that's me right there. We're going to be scrapbooking two different videos, and I'm just going to go ahead and make sure that everything else is working as it should be, which looks like we're good to go. So Dress It Up Buttons, if you're not familiar, Dress It Up Button Shop has all kinds of different buttons, both sew through as well as we also have sew through buttons and shank buttons. So the shank buttons are the ones that are like so, that have the shank on the back. And some of the buttons are thicker, like for example, our little friend Pumbaa here, he's pretty thick. While others, like the Minnie Mouse, Rhinestone Minnie Mouse, is actually pretty low profile, pretty thin. So some are thicker, some are thinner. Obviously the sew through tiny buttons, which I've got some of them here, and this is just a mix and assortment of different types of buttons and also rhinestone flowers. These are very low profile. So I point that out because for some scrapbookers and card makers, some of you are concerned with or want to make sure that the products you're using do not stick out very much from your projects. So for that reason, I just point that out because some things are going to be better than others for you. If you are wanting to use thicker embellishments, there are a couple of tricks actually. There's a couple of different things that you can do. And to do that, what I will do, if I'm going to use a bunch of really thick things, I'll do a couple different things. One of the things I might do is that I might, if I'm going to use super thick stuff, is put it up against pages that are really flat and not going to be a problem. Another thing you can do is you can take strips of foam, put them in the binding of your scrapbook album, and that'll kind of build up a barrier so that something like our friend here, who's a little bit thicker, so that it won't create pressure on your photos on your other pages. If you have any questions about that, feel free to let me know. Happy to talk to you about it, talk you through it. We are all set. We are live. Everything is looking good. I'm able to see on a separate device that we are good to go. If you're joining in now, stop by and say hi. That is me in the photo, not me up front because of some technical difficulties, but no problems. We roll on. This camera will work just fine if the other is glitching, not a problem. So what I have here, and if you're thinking, well, May, that doesn't look very Disney, that looks more safari. Yes, this is a safari inside, a kind of excursion thing. You can see we've got some crocodiles, or are they alligators? Anyway, those guys are right down here, and yes, we're that close to them. So this was within one of the Disney World parks, and what I am thinking is our friends from The Lion King. So these guys come in a package from Dress It Up, 1, 2, 3, with Simba, Timon, and Pumbaa, all dressed up and ready to be on your projects here. They come in a trio. You can also purchase them as singles, and the link to the Dress It Up shop is there in the live video description. So we are going to be just chatting and scrapbooking here. So to remove a shank off the button, there's different things you can use. These are pretty strong scissors from Tim Holtz. I've never had an issue with them. I trim off the main part, and then I will, when I'm scrapbooking, I will sit here and just kind of make sure it's nice and flat. If it's not, you can get a bit of sandpaper. You can also, if you have like a Dremel tool here, we can also just kind of touch that there. There we go. And just kind of sand it down if you need to. Obviously, sandpaper works just fine too, but I am impatient. I like things to be done and ready. And then we can repeat that for our other friends. I intend to use all 3 of our friends here since this is at Animal Kingdom, and this is one of my favorite movies and some of my favorite characters. I want them in my scrapbook. This is how I am using them. Now with buttons in my scrapbook, I mentioned before, some of them are a lower profile, some of them are going to stand out more. The ones that are lower profile, and we'll use some of those as well, the ones that are lower profile are super easy to work in wherever you might want to. The ones that are a little larger, and I get a lot of questions about these guys, the themed buttons, the Disney buttons. How are we going to use them? What would be a good way to use them? What is, like how do we do it? How do we use them? So the short answer is there's not a wrong answer. You can use them, and I'm going to go ahead and start just adhering some of our scrapbook elements here today so we can get started here. And this is just a piece of paper that also has, the paper came with the stitching. I didn't add the stitching. And I'm just going to place that a little bit off to the side. So I'll need to trim a little bit at the side and a little bit at the bottom as well. Here we go. Get everybody adhered onto here. So I'm just going to be gluing things together. When it comes to scrapbooking, remember that there's not a wrong answer. You can do things very simply. You can get really involved. You can take lots of hours. You can do it very quickly. There's so many different options. You can do some things digitally if you wanted to print out your stories or print out some of your elements. There's a lot of ways to make it your own, but of course, for me, it always ends up getting down to our embellishments, which is what we are using today. So I've got that trimmed down, and then I've got my 2 photos here, and I have this little strip kind of matches my shirt, but also kind of with the colors and everything. And then I intend to put my journaling on this tag. This is just a manila tag there. I tend to put my journaling on that, but I also want to cover up the days of the week because or most of them. I don't think, although was that? No, I don't remember what day that was. I think it was actually on Saturday, so I'll leave Saturday exposed. Yeah, it was. It was a Saturday that we did this. Okay, so I think now I just have to decide how high up and down and all of that good stuff I want things. A lot of the scrapbooking decisions, you can take a lot of time. You can do a lot of thinking, how do I want this? Do I want this like this or like that? There's a lot of things that you can do that will take quite a bit of time. I'm just going to put a little bit of tape at the top of this one and pick my spot here. And then this one, I'm just going to put a little bit of tape at the bottom, and it'll make sense in a minute, because by only putting a little at the top and at the bottom, I can go like so and do this. Okay, so they're still secure, but not fully, and that's intentional because I wanted to get everything in place so that I could then look at this strip, and now these are all, I can move these all around. Take a look at this strip. Oh, messed up my tag a little bit, but it's okay. It's all right. Not going to be a problem. So that I could sort out where exactly I wanted this strip to go. And I mentioned that I messed that up a little, but don't sweat the small stuff, especially not when we're scrapbooking and crafting. This is supposed to be fun. And there is Trisha, hi, or overthinking. Yes, we can definitely overthink our crafts if we want to. I am going to try not to do that. Not to do that at all. All right, my little friend Timon fell off the desk, but I've got him back. Okay, so for this, what I want to think about when I'm using these guys, and I'm excited to do this live because this is something, the little tiny buttons, these little guys, these are easy to work in because they're so little. You're just really adding in an accent here and there, a detail, just a little something. Those style of buttons are very, very easy to work in all over the place because they're very small and they fit in just about everywhere. When we get into the bigger buttons, right? The Disney buttons, the themed buttons, then we're talking about more space. We're talking about something that's thicker. We're talking about something that's a little more, right? Okay, well, they're going to require a little more work. And I'm just going in here and adding that extra adhesive that I didn't have. Remember, I just barely put adhesive on these. So now we're all set on adhesive. So these guys are going to take a little more thought because they're a little bigger. They stand out a little more. It's just, well, it's a little more. So in order to get these guys to work, what we're going to need is to think about it at this stage. And this is why I showed you guys up to this point with the scrapbooking is I've got pattern paper, yes, and I've got solids, but it's all fairly quiet. This isn't an especially busy page. And that's very, very much on purpose because if I'm going to start getting big with embellishments and bold, I don't want too much going on. I want some stuff going on, but not so much that it becomes overwhelming, that things take over. So we want to think at this point about if we're going to have these bigger embellishments, where do we want them? How do we want them? Do I want them to be like in a little cluster? That might be kind of funny. Do I want somebody up here? Maybe the best friends down here. Maybe my two best friends down here. How do we like them? How do we want them? And Dress It Up has posted the link in the comments to this specific button set, and we'll keep links coming for you as well. So where do we want everybody? How do we like everybody? What works, right? Well, there's a lot of different ways to do this, but what I like to do is I really like to think through the overall design and where does it make the most sense. Well, I'm going to put our title is going to be up here, and then I'm going to tell the story of the adventure right here. Okay, so that's here. So if I put one of these guys, and I'm thinking little Simba because number one, I like Timon and Pumbaa together, and number two, I think that Simba's color kind of matches my shirt the most. So keeping him away just kind of makes, and it matches this the most. So putting him out here just kind of brings that color together. So I'm going to go ahead and commit to this. And I'm just using a liquid adhesive just along them. You don't need to use, well, it depends on the adhesive, I suppose, but I don't feel like you need to use a ton of adhesive. You just need to make sure that whatever adhesive you're using enough to really make it stick. You also want to make sure that whatever adhesive you're using is appropriate to the craft. And what I mean by that is here in scrapbooking, I don't want an adhesive that will eat away at my photos or be extremely acidic and cause problems for my photos. So I keep that in mind. Now I'm just taking a journaling pen and a ruler, and I'm just going to make myself some lines. I'm not going to do all of the writing here on screen. We have two different scrapbook pages to make today, so I will finish, and I am lining it up with the lines already here in the paper. And you really won't notice my whoopsie there by the time I'm done because, there we go. It'll pretty much be covered up by words. I'm just putting the lines here because I like to do this in this way. I think it's a lot of fun and it gives me a place to do my writing. So I'm just going to write about my daughter and I doing this tour for her birthday and just kind of what was involved and how much fun it was, etc., etc. And again, you'll see these posted on my social as well as the Dress It Up social after the live show. And then I'm leaving the very bottom a little bit blank here. So this is, I guess, saying the easy way, prioritizing where these guys go, prioritizing these nice big buttons and saying, okay, this is where I'm putting these buttons. Before I make all of my other decisions, here we go, here's where the buttons go. What that does is make sure that I have a really good spot for them, that they really get a prime placement, and that they're going to look good within the layout, that it's really going to work. So my next step, I do want to get my title. So I need to see if I pulled, did I pull my title stickers? I think I did. Okay, so I pulled these guys and, ooh, there's a different one on there. Okay, so I pulled these guys and I think I also have some little green ones that would work. But I feel like these, it's all very small, right? And I feel like I want some of the letters to be the same size or possibly bigger than our button friends here. So for scale, I'm going to see real quick, and I do. I have some bigger letters, and I'll just tell you right now, if you're saying, you know, where did this paper come or these letters? These are actually quite old. Some of my scrapbook supplies are really old. So I am going to highlight the word wild. And I'm going to teach you guys a trick for this too. So we can lay this all out, or we have another option here. We are going to lay these out. And where do I have? Let's see. Sorry about that, guys. I just turned around. The only problem with what I'm about to show you is that it needs a piece of clear plastic, and clear plastic, as you can guess, is very hard to see, and mine has disappeared. A little piece that I had pulled aside. Oh, there we go. Okay. So this is actually a very large piece of plastic. That's okay. And hi, Sandy. Hi, thanks for coming. Glad you could make it. Whether you're watching this on the live or replay, I hope you are enjoying yourself. I hope that you let us know if you like scrapbooking tutorials. What would you like to see next? What questions do you have? What crafts do you want to see? We love hearing from you always. Helps us plan content as well. I create content here at Dress It Up, over at Jessie James on my own site. Oh, all over the place. And Trisha, I'm glad to hear you're enjoying it. So I put these letters on this piece of clear plastic, and the reason I did is because I kind of want to center these here in a certain way. But to do so, it's going to be easier for me. There, I like that. If I have them all set just so. So they won't stick to the plastic. I can just set them up on the plastic, and then ta-da. Now I'm going to take my pen here, whoop, little whoopsie there. And I'm just going to outline everybody. And the reason I'm going to outline everybody is contrast. If you have been watching, I do videos on YouTube. I've taught classes for many, many years, decades actually. So I am really big on contrast and setting up my titles to kind of pop. So that is perfect, because now wild, these are about the size of my buttons. And these guys are going to stay a little wiggly for a while. That's okay. What I'm going to do next is put all the rest of the little letter stickers in here. And it's all in support of our page. And our stars of our show very much are my little friends from The Lion King, because when I am trying to use these kind of beautiful, beautiful buttons, and you don't have to use a whole package on your scrapbook page either. You could just use one. I just couldn't decide which of the buddies was going to get to be on the page, and I decided they just all needed to be. So I am just spelling out here. And I'm not doing the same method on this just because I don't particularly care where exactly this ends. Oh, and Trisha's saying she can't believe that's my daughter. Yes, she is 17. I have been teaching scrapbooking longer than she has been alive. And then I'll use these other ones. I like to mix and match, especially when I start running out of letters. Mix them and match them. Have fun with them. Okay. Now that says Wild Africa Trek, which is the name of the tour, and we've got the wild, but it's not quite right. And that's where our tiny button friends come in. So these ones are micro buttons, and we will get a link here for you of the little buttons. These are a lot of fun. So this is from the 2022 Pantone collection that Dress It Up did. And I'm just making sure, there we go. There's a link to the Pantone. So the Pantone collection, it's super fun because it's just all these different colors and sizes and things that maybe you wouldn't necessarily normally think of. These are called Coca Mocha, this color, and I think it's perfect for this. And I'm also thinking actually a little bit of the red, which the red would be, I'm just scrolling to make sure I say the right thing here. Oh, and I scrolled the wrong way. Of course I scrolled the wrong way. This is, oh, I can't find it. Okay. Well, anyhow, there's a link. There's all, and actually Dress It Up has a lot of different red buttons and things. So I'm thinking a little bit of red, and then I'm thinking a little bit of yellow. And I am just, some of these are hearts, some of these are rounds. What I have done to make my life easier, because my organization, oh my goodness, the organization problems that I have had. And hey, Sarah James, good to see you. So with my organization issues, when I've got Dress It Up buttons and they're similar color or same color, for example, you know, the different blue styles, but they're all tiny and they're all the same color from Dress It Up, I've been putting them in little tiny bead organizers. And the reason I've been doing that is because then it just makes my life easier to shake a few out and get them on my scrapbook, get them in my scrapbook, get them on my card making, whatever it might be. I'm loving that. So good to see you, Sarah. And yes, scrapbooking is so much fun. We need more scrapbooking in the world of the happy times, of the adventures, of the good things that we're out there going and doing. And hello also to Roberta. Hello, good to see you. All right, so what we're going to do with our little buttons, and this has been very intentional, the design of this page. I got my papers and my photos, where my story is going, my title, and of course the star players are button embellishments. But now it's time for that supporting role. Now it's time for other embellishments, other details. This would be the time when I would go in and perhaps there's already stitching here, but perhaps add stitching. I know I'm looking right here and thinking we're gonna need a little bit, and I thought I had some, although I'm not seeing it. We're gonna need a little bit of trim here at the top, put a little bit of ribbon. Oh, that's why, because it fell down. That would explain it. So I'll scoop that ribbon up in a moment. But the other thing that we're gonna need is a little bit of sew on tiny little buttons. They're gonna really help us out, and I'll show you how. I'm just gonna get this color. I see a rhinestone flower, and I want one of those rhinestone flowers. This is gonna be fantastic. Okay, so what I like to do is with the glue, and I've got everybody here, so I've got collected up who I maybe want to use. So I'm just gonna pick a few little spots at a time, usually 2 or 3, not a ton of spots, just a couple, because I want to put down the whatever it is that I'm thinking about adding and see, and how does that look? I want to give it a moment and see, and what do I think about that? Okay, Do I like it? Do I love it? Do I hate it? How am I feeling about whatever it is that I just added? And this little guy, I want to tilt, but it's a little tricky because there's different layers. So I'm just using a little tweezers would work. I'm just using the tip of my scissors there to move this around. So what do we like? What works well? And is it enough, or would we like some more? These are the questions that I kind of just casually have rolling around in my head as we go. And that way, what ends up happening, oh, don't you scoot away, you stay right where you are. That way, as I'm doing this, what ends up happening is I'm just kind of checking in with myself and with my creativity, you know, with my design choices. Am I happy? Do I like it? Do I dislike it? Do I wish there was more? Am I satisfied? It moves nice. It doesn't actually move slow. We're only going to take 2 or 3 minutes for this, but it slows it down enough so that I have that moment to think about my design choices, think about what, and that's going to need a little more glue. Think about my design choices, think about what we've got going on, think about, am I happy with it? This is also giving me a little bit of time to think about what am I going to put for my story? What am I going to write out? What am I going to do here? It's giving me a moment to think about that. What might I like? What might I like to write? What might I want to say? I can just think about all of that good stuff while I sit here and pick little tiny embellishments and little spots along the way. Hello to Kelly. Thanks for joining us. And if you're watching this on replay and you have questions, don't hesitate to ask, because I will be coming back around and checking for questions or anything else that you might need to know about this project or the next one, because we are going to move on to our other project here in a moment. What I'm doing right now is just looking and saying, okay, are we satisfied? Do we want, is there anywhere else that I would like to add an embellishment? Because if we do, we certainly can do it now, or we can do it later. Sarah's asking if I stitch the paper with the sewing machine. So this particular paper actually came stitched, but yes, I stitch paper with my sewing machine. I've done it 4 times today. I do it all the time. Love that stitching on the sewing machine and then using it for my projects. That is so much fun. So much fun. And it really adds, for me, it adds a lot of texture, and I love the contrast. I love the texture, and I think it brings a lot into my paper crafts. Now, what I've got to think about here for ribbon, yeah, I think I like the green, although I thought I had some, I think we have some mustard color. There we go. Mustard color I think I like too. I've been using a lot of kind of mustardy yellow hues lately, and I don't know what that's about, but I've been doing it a lot, I tell you. So let's see. I know I have some kind of velvety ribbons, but I don't think velvety is the way we're going here. I think that one. Okay. We'll get this all set. We'll make a nice grand mess of things. Love that. And you can use ribbons. You can use, if you've got fibers, so if you've got art fibers or ribbons or trims, there's so many different things that you can use. Here's like a little piece of art fiber that I'm going to use. And then I'm just going to use a little bit of this ribbon and just trim it up there. And there's not, I always say this, but it really is true, you don't have a wrong answer here. You can do whatever you might like, whatever makes you happy in your scrapbook. That's probably one of the top questions that I get. Well, can I do this, or is this allowed? It is allowed if you want it to be allowed. Whatever you would like. All right, so I'm using gently using my scissors there to kind of poke that through. There we go. and then nothing to it, just tie a knot. And this adds to, and you can trim it if you want, but I like it. And if it's not even and that bothers you, I say if that bothers you, because if it doesn't bother you, well then let it roll. But if it bothers you that it's not even, you can always even it up. And this will be up there, adding to that, adding to texture, adding to all those layers of storytelling and fun. And as I mentioned at the start, I will go in and add, I just can't talk and write at the same time. I'll go in and add my story, and we will post this. And if anything else gets added, I will make a note. But for now, while that button glue dries, let's move over and check in on Mr. Mickey Mouse. So here we have Mickey Mouse with thoughts in progress. And I know Sarah was asking about the stitching. Here is some papers that I stitched together. This is the back side, very different than the front. The back side of the papers is what I was using and stitching these together with black thread, just because I thought that would be a fun little look to my page. And this is my other daughter and our picture with Mickey Mouse. And this is how you do pictures right now. This was the only character meet we did. So there's like ropes and things like that. So you're not getting actually close to characters, but you can kind of take pictures with them. And I wasn't going to do any character meets because that just seemed silly with all of that going on. But I decided I want to see, like, I want to have that picture, because something that's really, for me in scrapbooking, something that's really big is it's a moment in time, right? And this is what it was like in this place at this moment of time. So for me, I decided that I wanted to see just one of those kind of funky roped off character meets, because I thought that, you know, I don't know, 5 years, hopefully 5 years, but, you know, 5, 10, 20 years down the line, that would be something of interest, that would be something that I would look at and think, wow, that was really interesting. And that's not like that anymore. You know, I like seeing that. So there's that. Now, when we talk about Disney and scrapbooking, you know that Mickey Mouse is like the number one, right? And we have options. So there's Minnie. Here's Mickey, Minnie, and Friends in Tsum Tsum form. Mickey in Steamboat Willie form. And I thought, well, there's more than that. I'll show you a few more than that. Here's Minnie Mouse in Rhinestone form. I was just pulling out from my extras, or I shouldn't say extras, but from ones that I have not used yet, Mickeys. And then we also, there's Mickey Mouse like that as well. In fact, he's probably in here somewhere. And then we also have, and I intend to use, I haven't decided what I'm using on it. If you have an opinion, by all means, let me know. Mickey and Minnie, Wedding Mickey and Minnie, which I think is one of my favorites and super underrated. And it comes, look, there's Mr. And somewhere in here, there's also Mrs. Mrs. is in here somewhere. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. This is what happens when I pull out my Disney buttons, you guys. I get distracted because they are so much fun to play with, and there's so many ways we can play with them too. Here's another one. There's Minnie Mouse head. So as you can see, we have, to say that we have options would be an understatement. We have many, many, many options. What I am going to do for this particular page is I have 3 in mind. This set, and then also this set is what I had in mind for this page. And again, going to pull out and look at some colors of Dress It Up heart and micro buttons. I'll just put them off to the side for the moment. So we've got those guys, and then I'll set this to the side. And if anybody is wondering, my trays, I keep one of these out and working a lot of the times. These guys can go ahead and go back. These are part of a storage system actually to keep all of my Dress It Up buttons, my Shank buttons organized. But this, I'll work off of this and take all of these and use them before refilling it. That's how I work with those. So this, I'm still deciding a few things on this. I want the white to kind of make a pop and a contrast But then I was kind of thinking about if I also wanted more color or less color. So this is one of those things where the mighty debate, right? Color versus, do we do more color? Do we do less color? I also want, originally I was thinking the other direction, but I might take this direction. Sometimes when I'm not feeling so confident about all of my choices as far as colors and creative things, sometimes what will happen is I will, as I'm kind of going through this, I will go ahead and commit to some thicknesses. So for example, this is about 6 inches, that's about 4.5 inches, but full length. So I can play with it, I can move them around, I can see what do I like, what is sparking my interest, what is making me say, oh yeah, let's do that. And I can kind of wait it out and see what happens there and how I'm feeling about things. And it lets me have the moment to move things around and make my choices not in a rush, you know, make my choices as I feel comfortable with them. And I do think that there's a big difference. There's a big difference between I'm taking my time and I want to make these choices versus I'm just trying to rush. I just want to be done. How fast can I get this done? You know, the first obviously is going to get you some great results, and the second is going to cause some heartache and some problems. So this is going to be cutting here. I can put my title here, and I think I need to put this a little more off to the side. But I can put my title here. Remember, I'm always trying to think about, with my scrapbook designing, I'm always trying to think about how is this going to come together, but also those key pieces, those key parts, how am I incorporating those? How am I making that work? So I'm thinking title across here, and then there's not much to say, just this is what meeting a character looks like in 2022. Here we are with 50th anniversary Mickey Mouse. Very small and short. So I've got that. I've got these guys, and I like this. And I did already glue this down. I could pick it up and move it, but I like that. You might notice I mentioned the stitching there. I stitched around the outside of the edge. I did all of that pre-prep because I knew we were coming live, and I want to respect your time as much as I can, obviously, so that we can get to the good stuff. Before I commit to this, though, there's a key thing we have not talked about. How about our shank buttons? Where are they going? How's that working out? I like, woo, I made Mickey's or Minnie's dress fly off. Okay, so this is a good lesson. It does, not always, but once in a while it might happen. So this part of the button, what was holding it on to the rest of the button was the shank. And when I snapped the shank off, well, now that's not held on as securely. This is actually not a problem. Nothing to worry about. You just need some glue. Now, in my case, because I'm going to be gluing the back of this, which will re-secure everything, I don't have to do anything. But if for some reason you were not gluing that part, it would become a bit of an issue, or you might need to do something about it. So we're going to pop our shanks off, get it nice and whoop, nice and smooth on the back. And then we got some choices to make. I'm thinking these guys go here, but we could put them somewhere else. And no, this Tsum Tsum Mickey and Steamboat Mickey do not go together, but we can make it work. I can also grab a different Mickey Mouse button as well. I have other Mickey Mouse buttons, so I can go through and grab a different one if I would like. That's certainly not out of the realm of possibility. And we'll put up a link as well for all of the Disney buttons, because believe me, there's a lot. So I'm thinking I want a different Mickey Mouse, and I know where those live, so we'll handle that. Now I'm thinking about, I think I like them. Do I like them up top? You'll notice that I will have a few places that are go-to. At the top or at the bottom corner of a photo is always a great place because it helps with the whole, I'm going to start gluing things. It helps with the whole where am I putting things, what's going on here. It helps keep things organized. What are you doing? What, you know, where are you putting these different elements? How is this all going to go together? It can help keep things pretty well organized if you are using those edges, using those corners as marking points. You know, they're as, here's, you know, here's where this is, here's what's going on, and then go from there. So this, I'm just gluing these guys down first, and then we'll go with the dark blue. And I mentioned there are more Mickey buttons. There's a Dress It Up link there in the, oop, and I don't want to do that. I want to do this because we're going to lose a bit. And I'm going to be just kind of eyeball that there. Okay. And then this, I actually want, I think that's the better side. There's that. Just trimming off a few threads, but we're not going to worry about that for two reasons. Number one, we put some adhesive right on the stitches, which pretty much knocks out any issues you might have had. And a little more there. And then put this guy, thinking a bit back there. Yeah, a bit back. There we go. All right. So now, we've got a bunch of stuff to cut off here, and I'm going to use a paper trimmer to do so, just because I think it'll work better and give me a better result, because there is so much paper layering here. So I'll just line that up, and then I'm just touching to make sure everything is lined up so that the other paper's cut, but my blue paper does not. Okay. And then the other ones I'll just trim off by hand, because those are really small, but also single layer of paper. So it should be nice and easy to do so. There we go. And I'm doing this at this point because I think it's easier for me to visualize. And then I did mention I've got my picture here, and I'm actually now thinking I'm going to move this down a bit, and we'll put our title all the way across the top. And again, everything I'm doing here is in service of or helping to tell the story. It's helping to, you know, here's the story that we're telling, here's what we're doing. I'm actually going to pull out, these are some of the Dress It Up buttons, sew through, that are a little bit bigger. And these actually come in these containers, which is fantastic because, and by the way, there are a lot of colors. Look at the colors. I mean, you can see them all on the site, but there are a lot of colors to these guys, and they are a lot of fun. They really are. So I'm going to put a little link up to all the sew through buttons, because there certainly are quite a few, and they are a lot of fun. But I'm going to go ahead and pull a few of these out just to remind myself what we're doing here, and that we've got a light blue. I was thinking maybe a yellow would be good. And I guess that's all. Oh, I guess a black button would be good. It's Mickey Mouse. Black. Always a good idea. Or maybe that's a navy blue, actually. Yep, that's the navy blue. That's the black. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and pull those out. I love that these come in their own containers, because it means that when I'm out of buttons, well, guess what? I can just use those for other things, like how I do with these little guys. All right, so Meeting Mickey is going to be the title. And we actually are going to use some beads too, but I'll get there. Woo! I'm dropping things on myself. I'll get there. And we're going to just do, I'm just going to do this backwards. And what I mean by that is I don't need to position everybody just so like we did with our other title. This time what I'm going to do is I'm going to use kind of an up and down, just kind of a fun little up and down here to do our Mickey Mouse. There we go. kind of fills the space. It is a lot of fun too. Oh no, okay. Oh no, that's okay. I was gonna say, oh no, Mickey comes before Mouse. No, it's okay because I'm putting meeting Mickey. Oh goodness. And yes, I definitely recommend that you think through your titles, think through your words, and really think it through. Think it's much easier to fix it later. Excuse me, it's much easier to get it right now than it is to be fixing it later. All right. So we have meeting Mickey, and it's all kind of shaky and off. That's on purpose. Remember that. That was on purpose. That was not unintentional. It's very intentional. And we've got our dots, which go well with the round buttons. We've got our Steamboat Mickey. Now I'm thinking about just using Mickey here. We could just use Mickey. Or I'm thinking about splitting these two apart. I just like kind of the old-fashioned Steamboat Mickey look here. I can also have, you know what? That's where he's going to go. So here's another tip. I know I said I really like putting down buttons at the photo corners because they make a good, so yeah, I mean, it wouldn't, what would he be doing here, or you know, we don't want him to just seem to be floating around. We want him to have a purpose, right? Or have a point. Why is he there? So another way to do that, we've got this nice corner, this nice little gap of cardstock. Him sitting here is a nice way to, he's still incorporated, right? He's still in it. He's at the corner. He's not just floating around, and he looks almost intentional, like we left this gap for him, even though I did not, and it was most definitely not intentional. It kind of has an intentional feel to it, so let's go with it. Now, I mentioned that this is just going to be a little bit of journaling. I'm actually maybe going to put it right here instead. I think that right here would actually be a good little spot because it's just going to say meeting Mickey at Town Hall in Disney World 2022. It's going to be very, very simple. So again, I will just remind you guys, when it comes to scrapbooking and you want to do a lot of buttons, but you also want to make sure that you're scrapbooking, that the stories are being told and the photos are being honored and all of that good stuff, you absolutely can manage both. And the key for me is what photo or photos, what's the story, and then figure out which buttons you have that are going to work well, that are going to help you tell the story, that are going to embellish, but not just embellish, but also that are going to really add to whatever it is that you're doing, that are really going to accentuate, that are going to take your design and just lift it up, right? That are not going to add even more to it. So I love that. And I'm going to do a black button in the middle and the light blue buttons on the sides. Like, you can get a lot of these, or you can get single colors like these ones are. You don't have to get the whole collection. You can do single colors of those from Dress It Up, which I really, really like. Okay, so we've got those guys there. And then we know we're going to put some journaling in here. This one's a little more graphic, meaning like kind of chunky, blocky, lots of patterns than I usually scrapbook, because I felt like it made sense for the photo and for the styling and for all that we were doing. So I want to keep with that fun look. I'm also seeing, and this is the other great thing, remember when we've got our buttons out, we don't have to commit. We can take a look. Do we like it? If we like it, go ahead and glue it. If you don't like it, well, just don't add the glue. Just hang on a second. Don't add the glue just yet. We don't have to make everything, you know, every single thing doesn't have to be the commitment. We can always just try something out, and if we don't like it, back off, back away, do something else. Never any, I don't ever want you to have any stress. If I could give you one thing, it would be no stress in your crafting. I think that's honestly, it's the way to go. Just enjoy yourself and have fun with it. And yes, I'm going to put a little dot of glue right on the photo because I want a little red heart right here by Minnie Mouse between Minnie and Mickey here. And I love this Minnie because she's got the yellow and the red, but also that light blue skirt is just perfect here. I like that a lot. Okay, well, this one is feeling super simple, but at the same time, this gets to a point where I say, you know what, I'm not sure that I want to add even more. And when I get to that point with a page, I set it aside. And in this case, I want to let all this glue dry. So we're going to add some beads. I know I said this was Jessie James beads and Dress It Up buttons, and I meant it. I just wanted to give our friends here on this page, I wanted to give them a little bit of time to dry up. And so I have, these are Color Trends seed beads from Jessie James Beads. This is Stone Age. And the beautiful browns and creams. I mean, this is an absolute favorite. And they have a whole bunch of different seed beads. This one is the Wanderlust, which I also thought about using. It's so pretty. Love those colors. And these seed beads will work with their bead mixes, right? So we could make jewelry, but guess what? I have been using beads in my scrapbooking for let me think about this, 21 years, 22 years. It's been a long time that I have been utilizing beads in my scrapbook pages. And you know what? Someday I will have to dig up and share what I've got going on with all of that, because there definitely is a lot there. And I'm just going to make sure I've got, there we go. So I've used these a lot of different ways in my scrapbooking, with seed beads especially. I have done it where, and I just need to decide first, I need to decide which color I want these two top colors. So I'm just trying to be gentle just so I don't like shatter little seed beads everywhere. That would be truly horrendous. We do not want that. And I'm just going to set these aside safely and then pull out my little staples here. So I have done a lot. I used to use seed beads on wire and make wire words, letters and words. So I'd make my titles out of seed beads on wire and shape my little words and letters with seed beads. It was a lot of fun, but oh my goodness, time consuming. I would spend weeks on a single scrapbook page, and you know what? That was a time before, woo, that's okay. Before I had kids, and that was a time when I wanted to spend a lot of time on that, and there's nothing wrong with that. If that's what brings you joy, if that's what you are enjoying doing, then 1000% let's do that. You know, let's go for it. Let's do it. All right. I'm just pulling up here, and Kelly is loving the ribbon. You know what? I love all of this stuff together. The buttons, the beads, and I'm going to go in here and put a couple little dots here and there, and a little more than 3. Remember last time I was saying just 3, just 3. I'm going to do a few more this time, and the reason is, and we've got our seed beads, and they're teeny, teeny, tiny, and you can just use your finger, or if you have a tool, I'm just looking to see if my tool is easily accessible. I have a little rhinestone tool that comes in handy sometimes. I don't see it, and that's okay. So we can set our seed beads one at a time. You can do this like I am, where you're just setting it. You could also use a little tiny tool if you would prefer. I set these guys aside so they're all pretty much set now. I think they still need a little dry time. The big guys need a little dry time, but the other guys are all set. Sometimes I like to set things aside, especially for my scrapbook. Just kind of give it a thought. Do I want to do this? Do I want to add some more? Just give it a thought. There's nothing wrong with thinking about it and saying if you would like to have a little more of something or not. And I definitely love little seed beads. Now we're going to get a little more wild here. We're going to put some seed beads. Let's see. We're going to put some seed beads here along the little stitched edge. Not a ton, just a couple, but it's going to be fun. We're going to just take, I mean, they pick up so easy, and I'm just going to drop, and if I drop two, I'll just scoop one of them up and put it on the next one. There we go. Come on. There you go. I'll just scoop one, put it on there, and then pick to the next one. I like seed beads on my scrapbooks because they just add, it's just that tiny, tiny bit of texture, that tiny, tiny bit of color and detail. And if I have a few extra from something, then all the better. I'm using stuff up, and using up your stash is always something I am big on. If you are not already, Jessie James Beads has a Facebook group called Secret Stash. If you're trying to find it, what you're going to want to do is go to the Jessie James Beads Facebook page and then click on groups, and you'll see Secret Stash. And if you're wondering, well, why am I pointing that out? Well, starting tomorrow, we're having kind of a special little online, think of it like a creative retreat online, and there will be some challenges, some prizes, some random secret lives, craft alongs within the group. Lots of fun like that you can join in. And you can also find on both the Dress It Up, where we are now, Facebook page. If you're watching this on the Facebook page, you'll find on both the Jessie James Beads and the Dress It Up website and Facebook page, you'll also find some details on different live events, different things that we're doing, pre-recorded videos, tutorials, live shows. I mean, there's lots and lots of fun stuff going on. For now, though, I am going to go add the journaling to these pages, and then, as I said before, get these posted there on the Dress It Up Instagram and Facebook if you want to see the finished page. But right now I want that glue to dry before I do anything else. That's probably the hardest part, but very important, I think, is to go ahead and let the glue dry so that the glue is set, so that my buttons are all set, and so that I can get all of my fun stuff taken care of in an appropriate way, and that nothing, blows up in my face or goes crazy. Now, if I wanted to, I could also use some of these bigger buttons, although I don't love those colors for that. But if I wanted to use more of these kind of size, you can see how they're a great size with the Shank buttons, with our stars of the show. It's a lot of fun. We could sit here and do this all day, my friends, but it has been nearly an hour, and so I am going to let everyone here go. And I'm wishing you all a very creative day. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have a most excellent and creative day. Be sure you're tagging Jessie James Beads and Dress It Up Buttons with your creations so we can see what you're making. Always love seeing how you're creating and using all of these products.